To paraphrase an old cliche, there's more than one way to pet a cat. The original cliche is a bit gruesome. This means that there are many ways to achieve a goal, and that applies to persuasive organizations as well. The most popular persuasive organizations tend to be needs-based organizations like Monroe's Motivated Sequence and versions of Problem Cause Solution. Both of these organizational structures focus on showing us that there is a need that requires satisfying or a problem that requires a solution. But what if the audience is already aware of the problem or need, and what they are looking for is the best way to address it? This video will focus on two persuasive organizational structures that focus more on the solution than on the problem: comparative advantages and criteria satisfaction. To explain both of these, let's assume that we are considering trading in our existing smartphones. While this example is focused on a product, the organizational structure can be applied to policies and concepts as well. We'll start with comparative advantages. The key word here is comparative, the root word being compare. With this organizational structure, you are comparing alternative solutions, or in our case, smartphones, with the purpose of persuading that the one you are advocating is the best. The assumption is that the audience has already accepted the need to consider various solutions. Perhaps they're not happy with what they have, the status quo, or are willing to consider options that might benefit or help them improve. You can compare two or more new solutions, perhaps you've never had a smartphone before, or compare solutions with the status quo, what you already have. This is a reason some people consider a speech that uses a comparative advantages organization as a benefits speech. You focus on the benefits of your solution as compared to the status quo. A benefits speech, however, often doesn't even mention the status quo as one of the alternative solutions. It's inferred. For example, I could focus on just telling you about the benefits of a particular smartphone without even referencing yours. Indirectly, I'm comparing the new phone against your existing phone, telling you that the new phone is better. Once you understand the premise behind the comparative advantages approach, the structure becomes obvious. Getting into the speech, however, can take a variety of forms. You obviously want to get your audience's attention in the introduction, but some of what I'm going to discuss could be worked into the intro or as the entire first point. You might want to briefly acknowledge or reinforce the problem, reminding the audience that there is a need to consider alternatives. We all want the best smartphones for our money, but there are so many on the market. Let's compare the Apple iPhone with the Samsung Galaxy, and I think you'll agree that the iPhone is the best. Or you could explain the solution you are advocating, especially if it's a new one. This new smartphone has a wealth of options, such as, again, these 2 points, acknowledging the reason for considering solutions or explaining the solution first, could be included in the introduction or as the speech's first point. The bulk of the body, however, is focused on the advantages of adopting your advocated solution, comparing both possible solutions in the process. Your solution, of course, will always come out on top. In addition to an attention-getting introduction, principles of good speech design suggest including a preview statement, telling us in advance what your main points or advantages would be, a summary statement reminding us of your main points, and an effective conclusion. Again, notice that this organizational structure focuses on the solution, not the need. And also recall that the status quo, sticking with what we already have, can be either one of the alternatives. You could be making an argument that we should not buy another phone, or that we should trade in our phone for a new or different model. Another organizational structure that focuses on solutions is the criteria satisfaction method. This is more of an indirect organization that starts with getting the audience to agree to certain criteria or standards. The premise is that if I can get you to agree that an acceptable solution is one that meets particular standards, you'll be more likely to accept that solution. For example, I think we can all agree that there are at least 3 criteria that a good smartphone needs to meet: good value for the cost, reliability, and ability to take crazy pictures. Okay, maybe those are my criteria, but we'll use these for our examples. Once I get you to agree to the criteria, my organization can then focus on the solution, demonstrating that my solution will meet those criteria and thus meet your needs. Oh, and incidentally, the word criteria is plural, while the word criterion is singular. You would say, there are 3 criteria, but The first criterion is, in our case, we might say, any smartphone has to be a good value. We all have limited budgets, so, and then you focus on how your product is the best value. Then we would move on to the second criterion of reliability, developing the argument that our smartphone has the best reliability and customer service, and then on to the crazy picture taking ability. This approach can be helpful with audiences who may be reluctant to accept your solution. Getting them to agree to the criteria is a way to show you understand their needs and care about them. Again, good speech design would include a preview and a summary, and of course, an attention-getting introduction and impactful conclusion. There are a variety of organizational structures that can be used for persuasive speeches. Comparative advantages and criteria satisfaction are two that focus more on the solution than the problem. Before using any organizational structure, it's important to consider to whom you are speaking, what the speech purpose is, the expectations for the speech assignment and structure, and then choose the organizational structure that meets your and your audience's needs. No, I'm not in the market for a new smartphone. And despite all these pictures of cats, by the way, only one of which is mine, and I do know a variety of ways to pet him, I'm not a crazy cat lady.